You're sitting here with Super Chronic Josh interviewing test case number 1, Dan Kemmis. Dan, on the way to the park.
Yeah. I feel like a prototype, brother.
You are. You're a clone, if nothing else, because you're all over the place. When I first met you, you were the Emerald Wizard. Rumor has it you were a garden gnome. Right now, you're Santa Claus.
Whiz, I'm a Santa, I'm a gnome. You know, I've worked in a variety of industry at that level, from, after hours, tacky stuff, all the way down to working with, all kinds of fun, a lot of fun.
And media, nonetheless, right? You had started a media company with content and then provided the screens for rec shops to have, as well as the media.
Oh, yeah. The tech stuff you're talking about, basically putting together the equivalent of a closed network inside weed stores so that they could advertise cannabis product inside the stores. Sold that company, though. So
you did. You sold that. Care to say to who and how much for?
Oh yeah. So
and how?
Sold that to Cannabis Club TV in an extended negotiation. Basically, Cannabis Club TV was a competitor. We sat down and talked about the market, mutually agreed that it would be neat to have less competition in the market. So sold Vast Display Network to them for a tidy sum. And in fact, one of the things that's kind of neat about it is literally spending some of that bread these days on some of the other, underground stuff we work on. So yeah, fun.
I remember hanging out with you last year with some of the guys from Cannabis Club TV in Vegas for the MJBizCon, which is a segue into events. I just got back from Las Vegas, and the scope and scale of that is ridiculous.
It was funny. I didn't see you down there. I went looking, right? And it was, as I understand it, we had 66,000 people down around there with us, and I just thought that was insane.
So. 27,600 made it into the event. Plenty of people were there for the 2 other events and just outside hanging out, networking, and whatever.
But, that's one of the things I thought was amazing, Josh, is the hangers on, right? The people that are standing out in front that don't buy the $400 ticket to go in and are literally, as you're walking in to go exercise your $400 ticket, right? Okay. All of a sudden, here's not 1, not 2, but like 5 homies saying, hey, you got a few minutes? What's going on inside there, etc. It's a funny industry.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a bubble or not, but there's $65,000 grinders inside that have a booth. So there's definitely people that aren't aware of what's happening in the economy or cannabis industry.
I think part of that stems, I think, from so I've experienced Washington at a visceral level, right? So I've watched the beginning, the dreamers, the folks get crushed. I've watched the ups and downs in the biz. Same gig with Oregon. And if you experience that on the ground, that makes you say to yourself, $65,000 grinder, these people can't pay their damn rent, right? Okay. I mean, not all of them. Certainly some businesses are making money, but like any, new economy, a lot of them aren't, and a lot of them are literally destined to fail. So it's just kind of interesting. I think BizCon speaks a lot to the states that aren't legal yet or just went legal. That's my view.
There were a lot of CBD companies, lighting companies, packaging companies. What's your opinion about the branding with all of these companies? Are they going to survive?
Well, that's funny because so where I come from, the common question is, how do you separate yourself, right? How do you not be just another crew making CBD gummies or just another crew making a cool light, right? And so the thing I found about BizCon is, frankly, inefficiency. How do you process 50 packaging companies, right? How do you process 35 insurance providers? As a human, you get 4, 6, 10 choices and your mind is full. And this is where I guess my answer comes right back to a question, which is, I don't know. And I think if you're in one of those businesses or more importantly, if you're thinking about getting into business, figuring out what hasn't been done yet is critical, because frankly, everybody's doing what's already been done. It's crazy. It's crazy. I can't, something like BizCon, I would think it's actually probably better to have like 8 little tiny conventions that, hey, we're insurance providers for the cannabis industry, right? Instead of one giant thing with 1,000 booths on the floor. I mean,
over 1,000 booths, and yet there weren't really any innovative ancillary products or toys. When was the last time you saw something that was neat, new, niche, or cool?
Well, so I mean, that's my bread and butter. Okay, so I spend my time essentially in the deep dark recesses of the laboratories and the tech rooms and stuff where people are doing innovative things and top secret stuff, because that's the only place that's fresh. Honestly, I get bored. And so professionally, I'm essentially a finder for an elite crew that goes out and looks at unique technologies to fund in the industry. So I get to see stuff like that all the time and work on stuff like that all the time. But on a show floor, year and a half, years since we walked in and saw the packaging robot in Portland. And I mean, it's not that I haven't seen other packaging robots since then. I have. But what I haven't seen is walking onto a show floor and having somebody say, Dan, you got to go down here and see, the Mondo 300 because it's the coolest thing ever. Again, it's a tough industry to innovate in that ultimately it's an agricultural industry. There's only so much you can do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to get to some headlines, but maybe this is a good opportunity. Do you have anything that you're working on right now that you feel like pitching or talking about?
Oh, I do. I got a couple of things. Okay. So first, well, let's see. What can I tell you that's not under NDA right now? Okay, here's what I can tell you. There's a couple. So the money in the industry, at least in Washington and Oregon, here's what's happened. Basically, if you're a small to medium player, well, if you're a medium player, there still might be time for you. If you're a small player, you're probably already dead. Okay, because the large and frankly the extremely large players are coming in. So my unit, the team that I work for, is positioning themselves essentially in and amongst some of those larger players, where we are a air quote large player ourselves. And so some of the larger business propositions that are starting to come together are frankly intense and the kinds of things that you would see in normal business. So if you think about that, I guess when you look around and you see things like a uniform delivery truck, and you think to yourself, geez, what kind of industry supports a uniform delivery truck? We're about to be that kind of industry, okay? What kind of industry supports things like actual whole shipping, packaging, etc., specialists that are literally focused in that specific space? And so I probably said too much already. Suffice it to say, man, I get to see some neat stuff. Chronic, it's good to be me, homie.
Love it. All right, let's jump straight into rip from the headlines.
Oh, I'm in. I love that.
So this is an interesting article. It said snobby millennial stoners think that they're better than the rest of us average Joe stoners. So,
well, here's the thing. So we're about to spark up a nice fat Boggyboon joint, right? And I see it all the time with these vape heads and basically these, oh my God, the oil crew and all of this. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. To me, let's quit judging each other. Let's judge more weed. How about that?
So I'm going to read from this article. It says we're already seeing a connoisseur market emerging in the marijuana industry. Consumers are often interested in the characteristics of different cannabis strains, as well as how to find those strains were grown. Let's tie that into the product review. Tell me what you think about that article, and then jump into what you're smoking.
Well, sure. So first, if let's create an analog. We'll use the wine market, right? And so in the wine market, you got several different, broad classifications. You got that crew that's like, oh, there's wine on the table? Fantastic, right? And they just grab the jug and start pouring. You got that crew that's out in the middle that's like, oh, there's wine on the table. Let me take a look. Oh, I know of these guys. These guys are pretty cool. I kind of like this one, right? And then you got that other crew that's like, oh, this is the, 1997. Oh my God, how did you get that? I love the way it, causes these three taste buds to go, and smile, blah, blah. Okay. So personally, I don't have that kind of palate with grass. To me, I'm more like, there's grass on the table? Haha, let's set it afire. Okay. Whereas, again, I have seen some folks who've developed the palate where they're literally like, Dan, this wasn't cured quite right. And I'm like, really? Or they're like, geez, this isn't that strain. This is some cross strain. And you're like, what? How do you even know? But again, it comes down to study and attention to detail. So I'm in. I'm just not that guy. And then in this case, okay, so we have a Boggyboon Snoop's Dream 1 gram reefer. Boggyboon, a Northwest original. Roy and Kelly, the ownership crew, were personal friends, full disclosure. I love the hell out of them. I actually became friends after I was exposed to their weed. Okay, so not the other way around. I love their weed, right? So I went and looked them up. And then when you meet Roy, he's salt of the earth. And then when you meet Kelly, she is even neater than Roy. And so, and he's a ex-Marine. He's awesome. So anyway, so we're about to burn that while we drink coffee and sit in the park and talk to you.
Lovely. Well, as we go through this, feel free to tell me how it's hitting you. Let's jump to the other side of the country. First day of legal marijuana sales or cannabis sales in Massachusetts brings in almost $500,000. So there's plenty for state and cities to pocket enough to pay for 2 teachers' salaries for the year, apparently.
See, now this is something I dig. Personally, I'm all about recycling. Okay. I love the idea of, geez, I sell this to you and then you take some of the bread to do this and then, blah, blah, blah. Right. And so again, this is what makes cannabis so darn nifty, is that in the end, everybody's a little nicer, everybody's a little more relaxed. And look, we got, more teachers, more education. Heck, we can even have more policemen. How fun.
Yeah, so I guess the very first customer in Massachusetts paid $24 for an infused chocolate bar. Is that sustainable long term?
No way. Yep. No, I mean, again, you and I've talked about this. The prices we're seeing in Washington and Oregon right now would indicate that, what a, interesting market in terms of things going up and down and pricing and oversupply. So most likely not. No, but again, the fact is, the first first person who went and bought that thing and got that picture and is in the local paper, it's pretty cool, man. You're like, oh my God, I bought the retail dang grass.
Right. All right. So ripped from the headlines. Before you flag down cops and ask for directions, you better hide your stolen Rogaine and make sure you don't smell like weed. So this guy literally is asking some cops for directions. His name, by the way, is Donovan Green.
Okay.
Not making that up. Last name is Green. He stops to ask police for directions to the highway when police noticed that he smelled a lot like weed. So they looked in his trunk and found that this guy had a ton of stolen Rogaine. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? Don't steal. How about that? There you go.
Yeah. So here's bringing it back to the Pacific Northwest in Washington. There was a pastor in Vancouver that managed to make $50,000 smuggling Mexican brickweed into Washington, which already has legal weed that you were so brilliantly smoking at the park. But apparently he wasn't smart enough not to get caught. Can you believe that?
Well, first, I can't believe somebody's still buying Mexican brickweed, homie. Come on.
The Living Hope Church in Vancouver, he pleaded guilty to federal charges in February.
And then a quick shout out to any gangs or Mexican cartel members. I don't mean to insult your grass. Please don't come murder me.
Right.
And then while I'm on that topic, you can actually buy retail weed in Washington right now for under $1 a gram if you're buying ounces. So why would you buy black market weed?
Right. So it's we just had our Black Friday sales, and you had sent me a text from Uncle Ike's, one of the largest retails, by sales volume, and it was $9 for a 1 gram syringe of oil. Was it $24 for an ounce?
Yeah. We went upscale, Chronic. I bought the $36 ounce. Right. And so, 24 bucks an ounce. So under $1 a gram retail, which, here's the thing. In Washington, traditionally, if I'm selling it to you for 30 bucks, I'm buying it for 10. Okay. So again, that doesn't necessarily mean they stayed to that rule hard and fast. But the fact of the matter is that ounce then probably cost Ian Eisenberg. So Ian's the owner of Uncle Ike's, brilliant cat. They run a bunch of stores here in Washington. They are renowned. He is renowned. They are market leaders. Okay. I have a bunch of stores I visit where you go say, hey, geez, Ike's has $24 ounces. And they laugh and say, yeah, we don't. We have $90 ounces. Okay. But at the same time, when you look at it, here's the thing. This is the part that I laugh about. Yeah. At one level, you're like, wow, this is amazing. This is the thing that's got me really freaked out. Right. Okay. That's this year. Okay. What is next year? Okay. I mean, if that's this year, 5 years from now, when you go to get your weed, on the current trend line, they'll give you $100 in a sack. Okay. So again, at some point you hit the floor. We haven't hit it yet. And damn, again, I know if you're in biz, you run spreadsheets and you spend a lot of time with them. There are very few weed heads who ever ran a spreadsheet that said, geez, what will happen if I got a farm weed that sells for $24 an ounce retail? Okay, what does my farm look like? How many people am I employing? How much weed do I have to sell to be black instead of red? Nobody runs that number. They do now.
Mm-hmm. So I'm on lemonhaze.com looking at their top 10 list, and Boggyboon is number 9 on the pre-roll list, which is really good to be in the top 10 at all in Washington, especially considering that Boggyboon is family owned.
Run by real people, all of that stuff. Yep. Well, and here's the thing. So, Yager and the crew that runs Lemon Haze. So, again, full disclosure, it's not that we're connected. How about this? We have the good fortune of a whole lot of really neat friends in the industry. The guys over at Lemon Haze are brilliant. Basically what they do, they're a data aggregator. So they take reporting data from all over the place, et cetera, and aggregate it to create information that we as market folk can actually look at and rely on. And so the charts you're looking at literally come from actual state data. And here's the thing. If you're a top 10 in any, because there's a limited total number of stores, right? So if you're in the top 10 in any of these market spaces, you're seriously pushing a lot of weed. God, I gotta clean up my language. Sorry, Chronic.
So there's beyond just Washington, Colorado's on pace for a record-setting billion-dollar year of cannabis sales. As of August, they hit 113 million just in August. So it looks like each state is going to surpass 1 to 1.2 billion by the end of the year. Where's it going to go? When is it going to stop?
Well, that's the question. Again, I mean, at some level, I would think that there's always a backlash, right? And at the same time, I gotta expect personally that states like money, systems like money, and so long as because again, you start drinking a bunch of booze, you get crazy. You start smoking a bunch of weed, you don't. And so long as people are okay with everybody, having their party, I think it works out. I think the real trick is, again, finding good places for that money. In less bombs, more schools. So,
well, looking at stocks in the market in general, the U.S. is kind of flat. Europe for the year is in the red. So's Asia, but more specifically with cannabis.
Wait a minute. I thought that guy said that we have the greatest economy ever, and he's done the most ever, and he's the most awesome ever.
Yeah. I also took a class in college called How to Lie with Statistics. So let's just jump right into that. Total U.S. cultivation demand for dried flower is forecasted to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of 20.6%, from 1.3 million pounds last year to 3.4 million pounds this year. So like you were saying, these municipalities require those taxes. They need them. They can't live without them. You're not going to be able to put the genie back in the bottle. But that is from Green Edge. I think they work with BDS Analytics. And it says
is that another crew like Yager's unit or what? Like Lemonades?
So yes, BDS Analytics is they do data analytics. They aggregate a lot of data. Another
you like them?
Would be Headset.
Yep, you like them?
I do. I wish that there was more accessibility for custom reports at a more affordable rate, but the market is barely half a decade old, so we'll get there eventually.
What do they charge? What do you pay for a report, brother?
I think it's around $2,500, which isn't bad for a company at all, but for an individual like me who wants just to look at some good data, it's not really affordable because that's for each market.
Sure, right. Yes. I mean, the whole thing where for a business, $2,500 is an afternoon. For an individual, $2,500 can be half a month worth of wage, right? So,
yeah, looks like
By the way, we are loving this Boggyboon reefer. These guys do fantastic work. Again, full disclosure, I know them and I love them personally, but I love them and know them actually because I initially was turned on by their weed and I dig their weed.
That's what happens when you've been in the biz for almost half a decade. And that jumps right into this next BDS Analytics set of information that says inhalables remain the most preferred method of consumption among U.S. cannabis consumers in adult use and or medically legal states. Among these inhalable consumers, more than 75% consume flower and 67% prefer flower over other inhalable forms. But what I found most fascinating was the demographics of who's buying these pre-rolls or these joints, which was women. I think they were white women in their late 50s, early 60s.
Really? So classic, right? Okay, geez, I'm going to my meeting or I'm going home. I don't want to mess with it. Give me a pre-roll, homie.
Right? No pipe, no accessories. Yep. Smoke it, done, gone. Out of mind, maybe. I don't know.
Yep. No, I dig that. Again, a lot of different ways, right? And we all, whether you like to go to the bar to sip your beer, or you like to have your cocktail alone at home, or you like to go to the park like we do and enjoy our reefer or whatever, everybody has their way. And one of the things that's kind of funny is, so Washington is now, in a lot of ways, I consider Washington played out for the small opportunist, right? And at the same time, that's created an opportunity to see, okay, what happens after the onset of legalization? What does it look like? And one of the things that's interesting is, a lot of these stores, you go into these stores. So I don't know if you know this, I'm up to over 1,400 stores that I've visited in the last 2 years, okay? So I've been in 1,400 retail locations across the U.S. I've seen pretty much every kind of space transaction thing you can see. And when you go in now, in Washington, man, it's like buying Tic Tacs in the damn 7-Eleven. You go in, they say, "Hey, Dan, how are you doing?" I say, "Oh, I'm good." They say, "What do you want?" I say, "What do you got?" They say this is on special, that's on special. Ooh, I really like this one. I say, oh, okay, then let's do that one. Okay. And I roll on out, and I'm in a store 2, 3, 4 minutes, right? And so, again, you can't fall into the trap of your experience is everyone's experience, but I'm pretty sure that's most everyone's experience, right? It's, again, everybody likes their thing. You a
Yes,
vape pen guy, or where do you go, Chronic? Are you a vape pen guy, a pre-roll guy? What's your gig?
I'm also a convenience person, but having grown my own, I'm also very frugal, price conscious, we'll say. I grew my own until prices hit $3 a gram wholesale. They are now 8 cents a gram wholesale.
Right.
And so for me, I'm paying $35 an ounce, and I know that that doesn't do a whole lot of justice for these, micro growers that are doing some connoisseur amazing stuff. But again, having grown it myself, I just want something that's medical, organic, inexpensive. And if that means 16%, that's fine. I'm not trying to get blasted anyways. That Snoop Dogg you're smoking from Boggyboon would knock me out. I need more of a sativa, which is why I like microdosing with vape pens. So,
yes.
shout out to the Vuber vape pen. And then I get my oil from the Soto Ganja Goddess from Dose.
Right. But now here's the trick. Okay. And again, if you shut me down if we're running long and all that, but okay, $50 for an ounce, or $200 for an ounce.
Mm-hmm.
Is that $200 ounce 4 times better than that $50 ounce? And that's the trick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and does it have to be? I mean, do I expect my $80 steak to be 4 times better than my $20 steak? And at the same time, certainly there is a place. You're hanging with the homies, you're at the high end, it's your fantasy football draft, or it's a big party, right? You're doing your thing. You're bonging the crisp. It's a whole nother deal. You're out, it's the afternoon, your leg hurts, and you decide you want a cheap quickie, reaching into your cheapy bag is kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. And so you're primarily going to these stores, and not primarily, you have to use cash. Am I right?
Not always. It's actually very interesting these days. You'll wander into some places and they'll say, oh, we can take your card. Now here's the thing. I've been trained as a consumer, because for so long it has been cash, that even when they say that, I'm not really in a place personally where I'm like, oh, here's my card. But at the same time, it's slowly starting to transition. They have some services that sit in the middle. Again, I think they keep getting turned on and off. I mean, I've seen 100 if I've seen 3 since in the last 2 years. But there's some places that can take your plastic if you need.
So I'm going to tie a couple of stories together with Canada going legal recreationally about a month ago, and then Mexico declaring that they're going to go legal next month. We're going to be sandwiched between 2 legal states or countries. The second country, Canada, the third country to go legal, Mexico. And yet in the U.S., regulations for cannabis is gone nowhere. We still have to pay in cash. There's very few deductions from an accounting standpoint. So where do you kind of see that changing and the legality of the U.S. being sandwiched? Are there any regulation changes going on?
Well, so again, I'll keep it short, but I'll put together some very telling statements. I think we're 2 countries. Okay. I think unless we federalize, there isn't really a good answer to how does red deal with blue and blue deal with red. I think that creates a bottleneck in certain things. Again, you see a legalization wave, but you do see some places where they literally, Idaho, they've written it into the state constitution that they will never. North Dakota, I think it was, just got done saying, yeah, no, etc. So you see some places where it isn't just, hey, we're, geez, live and let live. It's like, no, I am going to edict that you shall not. Okay. So as long as that's going on, I don't know. At a federal level, I know this. A couple years ago, I had people say to me, no, the genie's, it's out of the bottle. And I used to laugh. Now I'm like, no, the genie is out of the bottle. Even if they try and cork it, what will happen is just a giant black market, because there's actually, they thought they had the black market killed here. it's resurgent, even with cheap weed. You know, again, it is just a weed. Keep a packet of seeds, Chronic, just in case it all goes south, all right?
That was funny. Yes, sir. So with that, anything you want to end with? Anything trending that you see?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think the big trending thing is that, hey, it's working. You know, not a lot of people talk about it. I mean, certainly if you're in a store, if you're in the industry, if you're on a farm, you're like, it's working? My God, I'm not making a dime. I'm getting crushed, you know, blah, blah, blah. As a consumer, it's working. I can go into a store, I can get full weed. It's consistent. I like it. I can go back and order more of the same, or I can go get something different. And, you know, as a tax base, I gotta think, I mean, I know how these operations work. They love that money, right? And it's cheaper than trying to just staunch it out. It's paying for itself. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing, is that, again, you know, I guess the watchword to those in the industry is thank you, hang in there, you know, be innovative and recognize that, you know, there are those of us who know it is a real son of a gun for what you're doing, but we love you for it. We really do. I mean, I'm sitting in a park right now, savoring the flavor, and, you know, we do love you for it.
How can people reach you, Dan, if they want?
So I'm a lot of ways. You know, probably the easiest way is deskofdankemmis@gmail.com.
Perfect. And then I will end it on the field report I did for Baked and Awake. If you want to see that, you can go to Baked and Awake on YouTube. I did a field report for the MJBizCon. Talks all about Vegas, interviews, information, all that stuff. So go and check them out. And with that, Dan, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being at the park, smoking a joint from Boggyboon, and hanging out with us today.
Whoa, whoa. Well, you know, you put the pro in prototype, brother. So there you go.
I appreciate that.
All right. Good morning.
All right. Have a good day.